guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm gonna be talking about the app called Headway, which claims to help you read books in 15 minutes. So I tried out this app for you guys and I'm gonna tell you my honest thoughts. So if you wanna hear that, then just keep watching. So basically what this app is it's supposed to be an app that helps you read books faster. Obviously, it sounds too good to be true, and it is. You're not actually going to read a book in 15 minutes in its entirety. I think that kind of goes without saying. Basically, this is a summary service that summarizes the books for you and gives you those short versions of the books. Let's talk about the pros and cons. So in order to really test out the service, I read 4 books on Headway. I read 3 books that I had already read, and finally I read 1 book that I had not yet read, but I was interested in. For your reference, I read Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, I read 3 Women, I read Girl Wash Your Face, and finally the book that I had not read but I was thinking about reading is How Not to Diet. So let's start with the positives, the things that I actually liked about this service. The number one thing is I think the summaries were actually pretty good. I think that they did a good job at summarizing the essence and the key points of the book, and I think they did this well from the point of view of the plot, but also from the kind of key takeaways. So of course that's the primary value of the service. So that's the first positive thing. The second thing that I liked is they do have a lot of popular titles. They had a lot of my top books of the year. If you are someone who wants to read the really trendy books, the really best-selling books, then I think this service, you know, could be up your alley in the sense that they probably have what you're looking for in terms of the most popular books. The third thing that I liked about the service is they incorporated some aspects of like memory or retention. It's not just about reading the summary and that's it. They have kind of like daily reminders of what you've read in the past. And they have this feature where you can basically review like flashcards essentially of the highlights of books that you've read. It kind of quizzes you on the key points and it asks you whether or not you remember those things or not. I think that aspect of the app was actually pretty well done. And that's a third thing that I liked about Headway. The fourth and final positive is I liked the user interface. I think it was very easy to use. They have basically a quiz or a new user experience when you join the app that kind of quizzes you on the type of books that you like, how many books you want to read a day, that kind of thing. I think it's pretty user intuitive. They use those results to kind of serve those books up to you. It's very easy to use. I also, in terms of the interface, I like that they have audio versions of the summaries as well as written version of the summaries. So if you want to listen to the book, you can listen to it, and you can also listen to it on higher multitudes of speed, so you can listen to it sped up, and you can also read it if you don't want to listen. So I liked the interface. I liked the user experience from that aspect of things. So it wasn't all good. There were some bad things as well. So now I'm going to talk about some of the things that I did not like about Headway. So the number one thing was kind of the biggest negative and that was the fact that all of the summary audios were read in a robot voice. Like they're not actually read by a narrator. They are just text to speech kind of narration. I don't think it was horrible. It wasn't like unbearable to listen to or anything like that, but it is nowhere near as good as listening to a real person speak the narration. So I think that's a huge negative. I think they could drastically improve their service by just narrating the books. And I don't think it would even be that hard because all of the summaries are very short. So that's the number one negative and kind of made the experience not that good. Now, the second negative, of course, comes with any summary, and that is you are missing the life of the book. Like you are getting the bare bones version of the book, but you are not getting the stories, the anecdotes. You are not getting all of the examples and all the repetition that comes from reading an actual book. So Yeah, I mean, you are getting the very, very bare bones experience. You are not going to get the full experience. The highs, the lows, the laughs, the cries, like you are not going to experience that. So yeah, obviously that kind of goes without saying, but that is the second con. Now, the third con is it is pretty expensive. It's about $14.99 or $15 a month. And I think on top of that, which makes it even more expensive, is as far as I can tell, the only option in terms of payment is in 6-month increments. So it ends up being like $89 that you have to pay up front, which I don't know, I didn't like. So yeah, that's the third negative. And then the fourth negative is it is pretty limited in terms of other genres of books outside of self-help and nonfiction. So if you are looking to get summaries of popular fiction books or things like that, you're going to be out of luck because as far as I can tell, they only really have nonfiction books. So those were my pros and cons. At the end of the day, would I ultimately recommend this? I think there's a few use cases or situations where I think potentially it could be worth it. I think number one, if you are someone who wants help figuring out what to read next, I think potentially this could be beneficial. It's a good summary where you can listen to the book for 15 minutes, get the key highlights, and then figure out if you want to dive in and really get the full picture. Obviously, this is just like nonfiction and self-help kind of books, so you're not really going to have like spoilers that you would in fiction. So I think it's perfectly reasonable to like listen to this summary or read the summary and then decide if you want to read the book or not. So I think it could potentially be useful for that. I think it's also potentially useful if you are someone who reads a lot of nonfiction and especially popular, like trendy nonfiction, and you want a way to help remind yourself of the things you've read. You want to reinforce the concepts that you've read. I think potentially it could be beneficial for that kind of scenario. And then third, I think this potentially could be good for someone who really does not want to read at all. You want to do like the bare minimum, but you still want to get some of the learnings and highlights from these popular books. I think if that's you, then maybe it's worth trying out. But for me, I think someone who likes the actual reading experience, you want to get the full story. You don't want to just get a tiny bare bones version. I don't think it's worth it for most people. I personally will not be continuing to use the service. I kind of takes the fun out of reading in my opinion. So yeah, that was my experience. So that's it. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have other thoughts or questions, let me know those down in the comments. And if you like videos about reading and books, then subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. And that's it. Bye guys.